Here's your order, miss. Thank you. It looks perfect. Dear friends, subscribe to my channel, Viral Story Hub. Make my channel famous. Yes, please subscribe. Thank you so much.
Poor black waitress quit her dream job to save a baby, not knowing his father is a billionaire. A billionaire forgot his son in a restaurant. A broke waitress gave up her dream job to find him. When the father finally saw who carried his crying boy home, he dropped to his knees on the pavement and couldn't say a word. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments what time is it and where are you watching from. Let's start. The dinner rush at the Meridian was the kind of chaos that separated the good staff from the great ones. Crystal had always been great. She had worked 3 years at that restaurant, 3 years of double shifts, of memorizing wine lists, of smiling through rude customers and sore feet, all building toward one thing: the head waitress position, the promotion that would finally mean she didn't have to choose between paying rent and buying groceries. Tonight was the night the manager was supposed to give her the answer. She was so close. At 8:47 p.m., Crystal was clearing table 9 when she heard it. Faint at first, almost swallowed by the clinking glasses and low jazz. A soft, broken kind of crying. The kind that didn't demand attention but needed it. The kind only a child makes when they've been frightened for so long they're too exhausted to scream anymore. She set the dishes down slowly. There, tucked behind the large decorative planter near the coat check, practically invisible to the stream of elegant guests walking past him, was a little boy. He couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old, with blonde hair stuck to his tear-wet face, wearing a small navy blazer that was clearly meant for a fancy evening out. His shoes were expensive. His eyes were devastated. Crystal knelt down immediately. Hey, look at me, sweetheart. I see you. What's your name?" The boy sniffled hard. "Noah." "Okay, Noah, my name's Crystal. Are you lost, baby?" He nodded so hard it was almost painful to watch. Then the words came tumbling out the way only a frightened child's words can, half sentence, half sob, all truth. "We were sitting at the table, me and Daddy, and Daddy said tonight was special because he never takes me with him to his work dinners. He's always too busy. But tonight he said yes, and I was so happy." He stopped to drag in a shaky breath. And then his phone went off. The really loud one, the one he always answers. Crystal's chest tightened. "Then what happened, sweetheart?" His face went. It went scared. Like really scared. And he stood up really fast, and he was talking loud but quiet at the same time, like how grown-ups do when something is wrong, and he kept saying numbers, and I didn't understand. Noah pressed his small fists against his eyes, and then he just walked away. He didn't look back. He forgot I was sitting there. He said it so plainly. He forgot I was sitting there. No anger in it. Just the raw, bewildered hurt of a child who had been so excited to finally be chosen, and then wasn't. "I waited," Noah whispered. "I waited for a really long time, and then I got scared, and I went to find him, and I couldn't, and I didn't know where I was, and—" His voice shattered into another round of crying, and Crystal didn't think twice. She pulled him in. She held this stranger's child like he was her own, rubbing his back in slow circles, whispering, I got you, you're okay," over and over until his breathing started to slow. She spent the next 20 minutes walking him through the restaurant, asking every staff member she could find. A few remembered seeing a man come in with a small boy earlier in the evening. Yes, the child in the navy blazer. But the man had stepped away from the table, and nobody had thought to check on the boy left sitting alone. No one had noticed when he wandered off, and Noah, sweet, frightened Noah, could only remember two things about his father: that his name was Daddy, and that he drove a really, really big black car. At 9:14 p.m., Crystal's manager, a sharp woman in her late 30s to 40s who wore gray suits like armor and carried a permanent clipboard, found Crystal sitting on the floor near the coat check, letting Noah color on the back of her order pad with a borrowed crayon. Crystal. The voice was flat, controlled, dangerous. Crystal stood up slowly. "Ms. Hargrove, I can explain. You have been off the floor for 22 minutes during the busiest service of the week." Ms. Hargrove's voice didn't raise. It didn't need to. "Table 12 has been waiting for their entrees. Table 7 asked for you specifically and left without ordering, and I have been standing at my office door waiting to discuss your promotion. There's a lost child. There is a phone at the front desk. You call security. You call the police. That is the procedure." She took a breath. "This is your final warning, Crystal. Get back on the floor. Now." Crystal looked down at Noah, who had gone very still and was looking between the two women with wide, wet eyes. He reached out and wrapped one small hand around two of Crystal's fingers. Just held on. Didn't say a word. Something in Crystal's chest made a decision her mouth hadn't caught up to yet. "No." Ms. Hargrove blinked. "Excuse me?" "I said no." Crystal's voice was steady in a way that surprised even herself. "I'm not leaving him alone. He's scared and he's 6 years old and I don't know where his parent is, but I know that if I put him in a corner and go back to carrying wine glasses, I will never forgive myself. So if that means I lose this job, then I lose this job." The silence between them was thick enough to drown in. "Then you're done here," Ms. Hargrove said quietly. She tucked her clipboard under one arm, turned, and walked away through the crowd of oblivious diners, her heels sharp against the marble floor. Crystal exhaled. She looked down at Noah. He was staring at her like she had just done something extraordinary. "Come on, baby," she said softly, crouching down. "Let's go find your daddy." She turned her back to him. "Hop up." He climbed on without hesitation, wrapped his arms around her neck, pressed his tear-damp cheek against hers, and held on. She carried him out through the front doors of the Meridian into the cool night air. And that is when the world shifted. He was standing at the open door of a black Rolls-Royce, phone pressed to his ear, looking like a man in the middle of everything and in the middle of nothing, all at once. A man in his late 30s to early 40s, in a dark blue suit that cost more than most people's monthly salaries, red tie slightly loosened, jaw sharp, expression cracking open the second his eyes landed on the boy on Crystal's back. "Noah!" The word came out broken, not like a billionaire, like a father. Noah's head snapped up. "Daddy?" He was off Crystal's back before she could react, running across the entrance steps and slamming into his father's legs with everything he had. The man dropped to his knees right there on the pavement, suit and all, and wrapped both arms around his son so tightly it looked like he was trying to put him back inside his own heartbeat. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." He was saying it into Noah's hair over and over like a confession. Crystal stood there watching, her apron still on, job already gone, and she felt her eyes fill. She gave them a minute. Then she straightened up, crossed her arms, and when the man finally rose, Noah still clinging to his neck. She looked at him with the kind of calm that only comes after you've already lost what you were most afraid to lose. "Where were you?" she asked simply. He blinked. He was not a man accustomed to being questioned. "I'm sorry?" "Your son," Crystal said. "He was inside that restaurant, behind a planter, crying alone for almost 30 minutes. He was terrified. Nobody was looking for him, so I'm asking, where were you?" The man looked at her for a long moment. Then he exhaled, and something in his posture fell. "I got a call," he said quietly. "An emergency with a deal closing in Singapore. $40 million on the line. I stepped outside for what I thought would be 2 minutes. I told him to stay at the table. He's 5, Crystal said. "I know. 5-year-olds don't stay." "I know." His voice was low. "I know that now. You have a child," she said, and her voice softened just slightly. Not much, but enough. "Whatever is ringing, whatever is closing, whatever is worth $40 million, it is never worth more than him. He didn't know where he was. He didn't know if you were coming back. Do you understand what that does to a child?" Noah's father didn't answer, but his jaw worked quietly, and he pressed his son closer. "I'm Marcus," he finally said. "Marcus Ellison." Crystal introduced herself. He asked what had happened. She told him the coloring, the floor, the 22 minutes, Ms. Hargrove, the final warning, the promotion she'd been building toward for 3 years. "You lost your job," he said slowly, "for staying with him." Crystal held his gaze. "Because he needed someone to, so I stayed." "Why? Why would you do that?" he asked. Crystal looked at Noah, who had his face buried in his father's shoulder, finally calm. "Because he held my hand," she said simply, "and I wasn't going to be the person who let go." Marcus Ellison was quiet for a long time. She didn't expect anything. She went home that night, sat on the edge of her bed in her uniform, and let herself cry for about 10 minutes. For the promotion, for the years, for the exhaustion of doing the right thing and still losing. Then she washed her face, made tea, and started looking up job listings. She was on her 3rd application when her phone rang. Unknown number. It was Marcus. He spoke for 6 minutes. He had already looked into her background, her work history at the Meridian, her reviews from customers over 3 years. He had a hotel group, 4 properties, 2 in the country, 1 in Paris, 1 in Dubai. The general manager position for the flagship property had just opened up. It came with a salary of $180,000 a year, full benefits, a housing stipend, and a team of 60 underneath her. "That's not a job offer," Crystal said carefully. "That's a life change." "Yes," Marcus said, "it is. I don't want charity." "It's not charity," he said. "I looked at your record. You're exactly qualified. The only difference is now I'm the one calling you instead of you applying and waiting to hear back." She asked for 48 hours to think about it. She called back in 6. On her first day at Ellison Grand Hotel, she found a handwritten note on her new desk. It was in a child's uneven, crayon-pressed handwriting on a piece of paper that was, she recognized immediately, the back of a restaurant order pad. "Dear Christelle, thank you for not going away." Noah beneath it, in a grown man's careful script, "The 40 million closed. It meant nothing compared to what you did. Thank you for teaching me what I almost forgot." Crystal set the note down. She looked out the floor-to-ceiling window at the city spreading wide and golden beneath her. Then she sat down, smoothed her blazer, and got to work.